Let me show you how I made this delicious okra soup. First, I started by chopping up all my okra. Now, this is the most tedious part about this recipe. I like to cut the stems and the ends, and the rest I chop them up in very small pieces. Since I want my stew to be very slimy, I make sure to make as small pieces as possible because that increases the sliminess. That was about 1 kilo of okra, and when that was ready, I just left it on the side to prepare the rest of my ingredients. For this recipe, we need some good quality palm oil, and that's the brand I'm using. When in cold temperatures, palm oil becomes so hard, and as you see here, I struggle a bit to take it off the bottle. But finally I managed to take off as much as possible, and that was about 3/4 of a cup. Then I added 2 small white onions and 1 red onion, and I let them fry for about 15 minutes while also stirring until they become translucent. Since this is the base of my stew, the onions need to fry very well before I add anything else. And moving on to the ingredients I'm going to blend, here is ginger, onion, tomatoes, habanero peppers, sankofa and Maggi cubes, and star anise. So I added that back to the stew, and I wanted my tomato to cook very well, so I let that simmer on a low heat for about 25 minutes. Now you may ask, Evie, where is the protein for this dish? And here it is. This is the tilapia and seafood okra soup. And once I washed it thoroughly, it was time for me to prepare the okra. So I added that to the pot with some water, some bicarbonate of soda and some salt. Now, as you may already know, the bicarbonate of soda helps to increase the sliminess, but we need to make sure that we don't overcook the okra for the best texture. And I let this cook for about 20 minutes while I also prepared my chopped spinach. And then I occasionally stir it until I saw this nice foam forming on the top. The spinach is optional, but it adds more flavor to the dish. So I added it and only let it simmer for 5 minutes while I turn off the heat. It's all going to cook again when we add it to our stew. Checking on my tomato, I can see that the oil has formed on top, so the tomato is ready, which means it's time to fry our fish. Since this is a seafood okra stew, I decided to add some ground crayfish to my fish, so I seasoned the fish with ground crayfish and ground shrimp. I usually use this ground shrimp to create my sito, but it adds a great flavor to the stew. Then I decided to add 1 more small Maggi cube. I only let it fry for about 15 minutes while gently stirring, since I didn't want my fish to break apart, and it only needs a few minutes to cook. That was the time to add my okra, and look how slimy it looks. I slowly added it to the pot, and also I stirred it to cover everything. And at this stage I added my cow skin that was pre-boiled, so it didn't need a long time to cook. I let it cook on a low heat for about 20 minutes more, so all the flavors combined. And then I started preparing my banku. That was 2 cups of cassava flour to 4 cups of corn dough, and I break it apart with my hands until it forms a sand texture. Now this took me about 30 minutes to pound, so I had to switch off my stew in the meantime. And here you see my husband is helping me with it. And when it was ready, I formed it into balls using a little bit of a clear wrap. Now you can see it's ready because it's not sticky anymore and the color is darker. And this made about 8 small banku. Taking a look at my stew, and this looked so delicious. So now it was time to plate it. I added my banku in the middle and put the stew over it. The texture was so nice and slimy. And there you have it, the perfect banku naan kurma. If you like this video, please make sure to comment and follow for more.